To begin these quick and easy Brusho baubles, I started with a mixed media paper in a pad, and I used two different things to draw around to get two circles. This is just an idea to give you, and if you want to expand it out, you could do lots and lots of baubles, you could do more decorations amongst the tree and make this a much bigger piece. But I just wanted to give you the technique for doing these baubles. So I've drawn around them onto a mixed media pad. And then we need a really dark background, because to make our baubles stand out and to make them shine as if the light's shining on them, we need to get that background dark. So I began with moss green, I used emerald green and ultramarine. Now the ultramarine, you might think you've not got blue in your Christmas tree background, but of course the light's bouncing around and it's a good one to get it nice and dark. But you don't have to use it if you want to, you can just stick to your greens and make them nice and strong. But the ultramarine mixing in with the other two greens does give you a really nice dark colour. So I mixed them on the palette with a little bit of water and then applied them with my brush. And then after that, to give us that light bouncing around the Christmas tree background, I dropped some more of the moss green on using a very dry brush. And then I dropped in some of the sunburst lemon. Now, if you have the sunburst lemon in your Brushos, I can highly recommend using it, because it kind of pushes the other pigments away and gives you a little bit of light. And when you first put it on, you might not see this effect, but you need to leave this to dry for an hour or two, and then you'll see it pushing the pigments away and giving you that light bouncing around the tree, because we have lots of different light sources at Christmas. Not just from the tree itself, from the surroundings and things reflecting off all those shiny surfaces. So to begin with, get a really nice dark background, pop some extra colours in there, but don't overdo it. And you'll see I used the card, a nice firm bit of a scrap card, to protect the baubles themselves. So the paper where the baubles is completely dry. Keep that dry, paint round them, and then when you add your pigments, if you want to add a bit of extra water with your spray bottle, make sure that you protect those and try and keep them dry. Okay, and then we'll leave that for an hour or two to dry and come back to it and do the baubles in after that. You can see after the background's dry just how much that yellow goes out into the other colours and pushes them away. And everybody's is going to be different, and every time you do it, it's going to be different, because Brusho, like watercolours, is very unpredictable depending on the amount of colour pigment you put in there and the amount of water you put in there, and of course the paper that you're using and how much that absorbs. So have a play and an experiment with it and do a few of these if you want to. And, you know, like I said, it's going to come out different every single time. But what we want to aim for with this exercise is getting that feeling of the light bouncing around. Lots of twinkling lights coming from all different directions, giving us some dark shadows and some really bright highlights. So after the background's dried and you're going to do your baubles, I actually used the brilliant red and the orange, a combination of the two there, and I think they make quite nice colours. But you could use lots of different colours, and like I said earlier, make lots of different baubles, and you could really expand this out. It doesn't just have to be baubles. You could, in your tree, you could put some other ornaments, bows, etc. But just concentrate on getting that feeling of the light bouncing around. Now, often when we're painting something like a landscape, or, you know, an everyday thing like a flower or whatever, and we just have one or two light sources, each object would have the highlights in a similar position. But you won't necessarily find that, because if you think about the fairy lights around your tree, one bauble might have a fairy light underneath it, whilst another bauble might have a fairy light above it, shining off it. So you can just vary the areas that are lightest and darkest, to get that feeling of the light bouncing around. So this really is experimental and out of your head. You don't need any references for this, just something round to draw around. If you wanted to, again, you could expand it out and put the tops of the baubles on. You could draw on top of this if you wanted to and put those little hooks on where it's attached to the tree. But I think it looks quite nice actually leaving it quite abstract. And don't be afraid to go really dark in some places and light in the other places to get that contrast in your lights and darks. That's what this is all about, getting some nice contrast in your darks and lights. So you'll see on the bottom bauble how dark it is to the left hand side there. Some of that was still slightly damp when I put it on. You will hopefully be more patient than me and leave your background completely dry before you put your other colours on. You'll also see that I left a tiny bits of white paper on the outside edges of the baubles. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but you might want to leave some dry bits of paper also to have some very white, bright highlights. So this was just an exercise to have a bit of fun with and a bit of an experiment and a play with, that you could then make into a larger piece. I just wanted to give you the techniques for this. So again, I dropped some of that yellow into the baubles as well, and they're still drying, and as that moves out into the red colours, you're going to get that flickering light effect as well. So if you haven't got the yellow, don't worry, you can use other colours, and you can drop little bits of water in as well if you want to while it's wet. If you drop a tiny bit of water off the end of your brush, not too much, just a tiny bit, that will also bring some light back into it whilst it's still wet. Of course, you can't do that once it's all dried. Okay, so let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Let me know if you've had a go at it. I'll hopefully get time to do some more YouTube videos soon. I'm quite random with my timings of when I do them. I'm a little bit busy with other things. You can find me over on Skillshare. I've got a few courses on there at the moment. Other than that, if you want to see what I'm up to, you can follow me on Instagram. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you've enjoyed this and if you get time to have a go at it. Okay, enjoy your painting and drawing, and have a very happy Christmas. Thank you, and bye-bye for now.